Let's dive right in. Welcome everybody to part 2 of the CEO, Becoming the CEO webinars. I'm gonna start here. Last time we covered basically just the basics, building courage, building self-care, building confidence, about, how to own your life and own your stuff, right? So today we're going to dive in a little bit about the CEO's perfect daily schedule. And likely it's not exactly what you're thinking. When I think of a schedule, of course, what immediately comes to mind is the calendar. And like you said, Rachel Anderson, like all the, what she's calling the unicorn puke, right? Everybody's got a color, everybody's got a thing, everybody's got a time, you build in drive time, you do all these things, and it's overwhelming and exhausting and anxiety ridden just looking at it. So I'm going to break it down quite a bit. We're going to do the same kind of format we did in part 1, where I've got 3 main points, and each one of those points has 3 basic concepts. And we're going to deep dive into each one of those. And I'm going to kind of break down how your schedule actually needs to be revolved around your goals and be intentional and all of that. So let's see. First things first, who the heck am I and why am I qualified to even be having this conversation with you guys? I am Rachael Novak. My husband Mike and I run the Novak real estate team out of Everett, Washington. We are with Real Brokerage, and we couldn't be more thrilled to be with them. It has been a huge game changer for us personally, our business, and our team with wealth building. I am also on the platform of Hatch Coaching. So I'm super, super grateful to Eric, Hatch, and Robbie, and Rachel, and Jess, and Jackie, and everybody there at Hatch Coaching who gives me this platform to be able to share, my little tidbits, my words of wisdom, so to speak. So my husband and I run the team together. So I'm a team leader. I personally am a top 1% agent in our market as well as nationally, just in regards to my volume and units. I'm a wife to my husband, of course, a mom to 3 beautiful children that you can see here. Maya, Teo, and Phoebe are the loves of my life. I'm a recreational fitness enthusiast. I like working out, but I also like peanut butter. So we balance that nicely. I'm definitely a businesswoman. I love a challenge. I love negotiating. I love contracts, and I love people. I definitely created the CEO concept because my goal in my life is to really max out in every single area that I possibly can. And there's no way to do that without assuming the identity of a CEO. But since we're female, we're going to just move that right into CEO, right? So a little reminder, last time we talked about the fact that we don't really have discipline problems, okay? This is a concept that a lot of people are going to shove down your throat saying, oh, you just need to build the discipline, build the discipline. Well, that's not untrue. But the fact of the matter remains, as moms and wives and professionals and people in the world and social creatures, we have a lot of discipline built into our lives because of necessity and responsibility. So what we're talking about here is simply that we don't have a discipline problem, we have an identity problem, and we got to work on it. So that's what we're going to deep dive into a little bit more today. When it comes to your identity, there's a lot of things that we have assumed throughout our entire lives. When I was growing up, I, of all my siblings, was the smart one. My sister was the sporty one. My brother was the golf guy. It was almost like we were the Spice Girls, and every single one of us had a different identity. And it's amazing how inherently we adopt all of those things that people tell us that we're good at, and adopt all of those identities that people tell us to be and who we are. And later on in life, we kind of start realizing, well, yes, I'm smart, but I'm also athletic, or I also like sports, or I also like crafting when you were a tomboy before. So really understanding the fact that we can change our identity, we can update our identity, we can evolve our identity, and we don't have to be stuck in the identity that people have defined us as through our entire lives. So I think that's one of the biggest concepts of being a CEO, is reframing your identity and understanding the fact that this isn't about just discipline. This is about assuming an identity and building an identity of somebody who resonates, somebody who takes ownership in their lives, right? So that's truly what being a CEO is. Time to take our identities back, because you alone are responsible for how you respond to things. You are responsible for what you do, and you are also responsible for exactly where you are in life. Your friends, your work, your schedule, your relationships with your kids, your relationships with your husband. You are ultimately responsible for all of those things. So let's talk about those just a little bit. Now, Let's talk about your perfect schedule, okay? Because when, again, we think about what a perfect schedule looks like, we think about a Google calendar or an Outlook calendar or something that is, organizing all of the crap that we have to do throughout the day. But what is the concept of a schedule? What is it actually? Well, I can tell you right now, it is not these things. It is not overcommitted. It is not repeated over and over. It's not the same every single day, though it can feel that way, but it is typically not. It is not just solely focused on your career advancement 24/7, 365. Okay. Even though a lot of our lives revolve around our career and a lot of our lives revolve around work, that does not mean that our schedule and our overall life and your perfect schedule for you revolves around that exact thing. Your perfect schedule does not revolve around money and prioritizing that only in your life. And your perfect daily schedule does not define your worth. How productive you are in life or day to day does not define your worth. Now, that is a concept that I have struggled with for years. I would think at the end of the day, if I was a lazy ass and did nothing all day, I felt so worthless at the end of the day. And I have reframed that completely to understand that time, that schedule, that rest time in my schedule, in my day, is so necessary to be able to recuperate and be even more productive on the following days that I need to be present and running at that level 10. So what is exactly your perfect schedule? Your schedule, now write this part down, is an intentional approach to your daily priorities by taking action toward your goals. It is an intentional approach to daily priorities of taking action toward your goals. That is what your schedule truly is. Now, for all of us, we all have different stories. We all have different priorities in our life. So truly your schedule is dependent on the season of life that you're in. It's dependent on your family dynamic, married, kids, no kids, pets, no pets. It's dependent on your lifestyle choices. What hobbies do you have? Do you go to the gym? Are you in a bowling league? Do you play recreational softball or volleyball? Those things obviously have a lot to do with your schedule. And it, of course, is dependent on your work responsibilities. Do you have a position that is really flexible and lets you work from home? Are you working as a stay-at-home mom right now? Are you working in a career where you're working towards a big advancement, or you have big goals in your financial and work capacity? All of these things are going to depend, or your schedule is going to depend on all of these things. So it's super, super important that we understand that my schedule is not going to look like yours, and your schedule is not going to look like mine. Okay. And that's okay. A lot of people live in a reactive state day to day. People will wake up, they'll know exactly what time they need to be at work. So they'll sleep in until the last possible minute. Then they'll rush to get ready. Then they'll rush into the office. And sometimes they can make it through the drive-thru for a coffee just in time to get to the office. Or sometimes they just wake up, when they wake up and they've got things to do and they're rushing to go get, everything feels reactive. And I want to challenge you to flip that on its head and go from being reactive in areas of your life to intentional, because you, again, are responsible and you control your schedule and you control what you do. And instead of being reactive, let's be intentional, because this is another one. You can screenshot this if you'd like. Often it is not heroic actions that bring us success, but resisting the temptation and keeping out of trouble. It's what we are able to avoid that allows us to stay on track and achieve superior results. Now, I hate to just read these quotes off of these slides, but at the same time, this hit me so hard, because when we think about all of the things that we're trying to accomplish in life, or trying to accomplish tomorrow, or trying to accomplish today, right, Christy? End of month, like things are crazy. I got to get a lot of shit done today. But it's not the big heroic things that bring us success. It's the little bitty things, and resisting scrolling Facebook for hours, or resisting eating 3 tablespoons of peanut butter when I know I should be eating my steak and broccoli. That's totally personal in mine. That's 100% me. Okay. I'm a sucker for peanut butter. So let's talk about being intentional as opposed to being reactive. I'm going to give you the tools to do that coming up here, okay? So step one, identifying your goals. Now, this sounds so simple. Just identify them. Just identify your goals, guys. It's so simple. But how the heck do we even do that? Where do we start? What tools do we use to figure out what we want? Are we talking, what's my goal for today? What's my goal for next week? What's my goal for this year? I don't know. Now, this is called reverse goal setting. And this is the strategy that I've used for quite a long time. I got this from a mentor of mine, Craig Ballantyne, and he talks about reverse goal setting as the way to be able to truly accomplish things and live a quality of life that you want to live, building your schedule around these goals. So number one, we have to identify our season. Number two, we have to decide the end goal. And number three, we have to work from that finish line, work from that goal that we're choosing, and we have to work backwards to where we are now to take the steps necessary to achieve that goal. So how is this all done? Well, that's a good question. The people who recognize the seasons that they're in are more likely to find success. If you're in a season of building yourself, building your personal growth, building your confidence, building your skill sets, building a relationship, dating or mending or healing, recognize that season. If you sweep it under the rug and if you ignore it, you are never going to truly be able to move past it into the goals that you want to achieve. So you must be able to recognize the season that you're in. Success and failure, depending on what you're trying to do and depending on what you want to do, success and failure are 100% mental, guys, 100%. Because my success is not going to look like your success or your version of success. My lifestyle choices may not appeal to half of you here, and your lifestyle choices may not appeal to me. And that's totally okay. That's the beauty of this freedom of life. But identifying the season that you're in and then understanding that the success that you're looking for to achieve is 100% mental, because it is your choice what success feels like. Whose business is it what you feel like when you're successful? Literally nobody's. If you feel good about your day and you feel like you had a productive day and you knocked off things off your to-do list, that can be a successful day. And that very likely may not look like a day that I would consider successful, and vice versa. So we have to get rid of this notion completely that a successful day is universal, that all successful days look alike, and that success equals productivity at work. Yes, it's important. You want to keep your job. You want to perform for your clients. You want to not let down your teammates, of course. But success is not wrapped up into the productivity that you have all the time. It may feel that way sometimes, but a lot of times we'll start wrapping in our self-worth in with that. And that's where it can get really dangerous. So understanding that your success and your failures are 100% your perspective will help kind of free you from this burden of the squirrel effect, right? Where I need to check my Facebook and keep up there, and I need to check my email, and I need to respond here, and I need to text that person, and I need to make sure that paperwork's over there, and I need to tell her, oh, she looks cute today, I need to make sure to tell her that. Like, we're going a million miles a minute in every single direction, ladies. So if we don't break from the fact that my success is my own, it's going to be really rough for us, okay? Now, the other way to identify some goals, after we're talking about our season, we recognize the season that we're in. This is a tool that I have used on my team for several years. And it doesn't matter if you're employed, self-employed, stay-at-home mom employed. It doesn't matter what your position is. This quarterly goal setting structure is the most powerful tool that I have used to get shit done in my life that I have ever seen. And I want to share this with you guys because It is this and this alone that keeps us focused day to day. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, of course. So when we're looking at the different areas of our life that we want to set goals, it's so overwhelming to even start thinking about all the goals that we have in life. I want to be fit and I want to be successful in my way. I want to make X amount of money and I want to help this many clients this year. And I want really good relationships with my kids and I want a really good marriage. And I want to make sure that I, read this many books and I want to make sure that I keep up on this podcast. And it's important to me to keep up on these world events and blah, 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 blah. So how do we start funneling that focus to be able to actually get shit done day to day? Well, this is what I use. And I look over it every single quarter. And this is super timely for us because guess what, guys? It's the end of Q1 today. Q2 starts tomorrow. I'm happy to email this out to anybody who wants it. We can also email it out with the replay of this webinar. But this quarterly goal setting structure is absolutely clutch. And I'm going to break it down a little bit here. Now, number one in the top right or top left corner is a financial outcome goal. Now, I'm not talking about, I want to make this much money this year. I'm not necessarily talking about, I want to save this much money. Sometimes it's simply, I want to pay off that credit card, or I want to have $1,000 in my bank account by the end of, by June this year, or whatever it is for you. It's all, again, your success is going to look very different than anybody else's. So picking one outcome goal for this quarter, it has to be realistic. It has to be something that you know that you can accomplish in a 90-day period. And write that outcome goal in financially. So say I want to, save $1,000 this quarter. Okay, say that's your outcome goal. You're going to then create 3 process goals. So process goal number 1 would be of every single paycheck, I am going to save X amount of money. So what I would probably do is say, this is how much money I make. If I want to save $1,000 this quarter over the next 90 days, then I am going to break down exactly how many pay periods I have, and then do a little bit of math and divide and see how much money that would mean that I would save from each paycheck. And when you break it down that granular, it becomes so much more realistic. And then you have just created a very realistic, attainable goal for yourself that you can accomplish in only 90 days. But if you do not have the focus and the outcome and the process to do that, that's going to be a problem. Now, if you're like, okay, my paychecks are pretty much maxed out. The max that I could even save for my paycheck would be, $40 or $50 every paycheck, because I've got bills and I've got groceries and gas is, $100 a gallon. So it's going to be important that you understand that that would be just one process goal. Another process goal would be, I want to save this money in my bank account more than I want Starbucks 5 days a week. So instead of spending $25 a week at Starbucks, I'm going to spend $5, and I'm going to choose the 1 day a week I get it. And the other $20 is going to go into my savings, because you are choosing this outcome goal. So that would be another example of a process goal. And we're going to do the same thing for every single one of these quadrants in our lives. But part of identifying the season that you're in is identifying exactly where you want your priority to be for this quarter. So if your priority is saving that $1,000, then your financial outcome goal is going to be the big goal that you're really going to focus on and maintain those 3 process goals. Now, a social outcome goal. That is something like, I have not been spending enough time with my friends. I have not been spending enough time with my kids outside of the home. I have not, you want to do something different. One of my teammates actually signed up for a swing dance class because it's something she absolutely loves, but was not making any time for whatsoever. And she put that on her social outcome goal for a quarter. So she signed up for a class. She got to do 6 classes. She booked it. I think she went, and it was awesome. And something as simple as that, that's something that brings you joy. So it needs to be prioritized. A personal enrichment goal. So typically for my personal enrichment, I read books. Another thing would be, writing. I love writing. I love creating content. So putting a specific goal in there, like I want to read 3 books this quarter. And then the process goals would be identifying those 3 books. What titles am I going to read? Identifying the time of day that I'm going to put into my schedule to read those books, and then deadlines to have them done by would be my process goals. Health outcome goal. This is a big one for me right now. I kind of let myself go after our trip last year, and I had a really, really nice couple pounds that I had put on over Christmas, and I wanted to shed them out. I wanted to shed them. I wanted to become a little more healthy and feel a little more firm and fit. So my health outcome goal was around body fat. So I chose a specific body fat percentage that I wanted to get to. So first process goal was establish where I'm at now, go get my body fat tested, then figure out the diet plan and make sure that I'm only doing 1 to 2 cheat meals every single week. So this is a fantastic structure for you to identify the goals that you want. And one super important thing to know about this and goals in general is simply that they're going to evolve. And if you do not break them down into these process goals and 90-day tracks, these 90-day goals, it's going to be way too overwhelming. So this is an excellent tool to be able to identify the goals that you have right now and then revisit it, right? Revisit it every single quarter, multiple times. On our team, we have built-in accountability. So I do agent partner training, and twice a quarter, we look at our goals, we challenge each other on them, and then we execute them that quarter. And it's really fun. So the next part of this, okay, guys, are you ready? We covered some deep stuff there with the goals, and we'll revisit that too. Step 2, once those have been identified and you've worked them in, figured out exactly where you're going to be and created the process goals to get you there in your schedule over that quarter, over that 6 months, over that year. Now we have to keep the integrity of goals our priority. Now, it's for some people, it's so easy to set goals. Beginning of the year, who's ever made like a health goal, beginning of the year, or like Monday, I'll start Monday kind of thing. Now, what happened? Like, we fizzle out. What happens after a couple of weeks? We get tired, we get busy, things get in the way. We start prioritizing other things. Well, that's exactly the problem. If we do not maintain the integrity of the goals that we set for ourselves and make sure that they're a priority, they're not going to get accomplished. So keeping that focus is so key. Now, giving attention to our goals means a couple of things. This is one of my favorite ones, guys. Number 1 is resist overcommitting. Is anybody in here a chronic overcommitter? Me. Yep. Resist overcommitting. And we'll deep dive, of course. Number 2, for fuck's sakes, guys, stop being polite. I'll get to what that means. Politeness isn't serving us, okay? Being polite to other people, it's not serving us. And number 3, setting expectations. And I'll deep dive, but how we set expectations with our team, how we set expectations with our kids, with our spouse, with ourselves is so important. If you're overcommitting, if you are being too polite, and if you're not setting expectations, you are setting yourself up to fail. So number 1, when you try to do too much, it ruins your day. I can speak from experience 1,000 times. I was a chronic yes person for many years. And it took a really long time for me to understand the power of no, which we talked about in part 1 webinars. Because when you have so much stuff stacked in your schedule and you have such a long to-do list and you have not prioritized yourself or the things that truly matter to you, like your goals, your family, your fitness, your mindset, man, it ruins your day. It takes the wind out of your sails. It is exhausting. You're depleted at the end of the day. So it is so important to not overcommit and not try to do too much in one day. Our society is so hell-bent on celebrating people who are chronically busy. And I'm one of them. I have days that I am running at a freaking level 10 all day long. But that's why it's so important to schedule in that rest time, and why I now do not have guilt or feel worthless after a non-productive day. Because that non-productivity is what is fueling me for the other days of the week that I need to be at level 10. So trying to do too much is absolutely going to ruin your day, guys. This, my friends, is my calendar. There is a lot going on here, let me tell you, but this is a very typical week for me. There are multiple things that I have built into my calendar that identify the priorities of my life. So as you can see, Mondays, so the first one on the very far left you're looking at, that's Sunday. I have built my schedule so I only actually work outside of the home maybe 3 Sundays a quarter. And that took a very long time to get to that point, but that's how I am now. But Sunday is my digital detox time. So that's when I put my phone away. I call it NPT, no phone time. I put it away. I ride bikes with my kids and I play games with my kids. And sometimes it is just movies, but it's not social media and it's not email and it's not text messages. I try to do a digital detox every single week because that calms my brain. And I found a lot of success with how much more centered I feel after that. Mondays are big operations day. It's business time. I start wicked early in the morning. I go to the gym. I've got office day prep. We do a weekly hatch huddle with our hatch crew and our real brokerage, sandbox. We do a huddle with our team every day. And then I spend intentional business operation time. And see how I have it in my schedule? Because building my business and maintaining the operations and the procedures and processes in my business is so important that I literally have business operations on my calendar to work on. Now, even if you don't own your own business or you're not self-employed, if you have things that you are responsible for, weekly recurring things, and you typically just kind of fit it in whenever you can during your day, how much better would it feel to put on your calendar a specific 45 minutes or a specific hour where that's all you need to focus on? Being really intentional with your calendar and with your time. So as you can see, Mondays and then Wednesdays, I'm out of the office at 2:30. That's my day. I specifically prioritize those 2 afternoon and evenings to pick my kids up from school and spend time with them in the evening and bring them to gymnastics and jujitsu and be at home for dinner with them. In my line of work in real estate, this is bananas. And honestly, depending on my season, which I'm in very busy season right now, I still am out of the office at that time, but I still remain available to my team and my clients and other agents. Now, Tuesdays and Thursdays are my intentional face-to-face client appointment days. So I've got, follow-ups scheduled. I've got role plays. We do a leadership mastermind within our team. And then I also have specific afternoons and intentional evenings that I take client appointments. And that's Tuesdays and Thursdays. And as you can see on the very far right, every other Saturday. So this week that I was intentionally taking every other Saturday off because yes, money matters. Yes, success matters to me, but what matters more is my quality of life. I don't want to miss too much of my kids, right? There's going to be things that I sacrifice and I miss, but I don't want to miss too much. So I have intentionally created time blocks in my entire schedule that incorporate my goals personally and professionally. And I ruthlessly protect them because I know mama is a grumpy bear if she doesn't get her time. And if I don't get my sleep and if I don't get time with my kids, I feel depleted. And for me, that feels like I'm failing if I don't have that time with my kids. So to make sure that my version of success in life is maintained, I keep an intentional prioritization of my kid time, my family time, and of course, business operations, clients, teammate, training, all of that. Okay. Now onto this politeness factor, because who's ever gone to a party or accepted a candy or a delicious chocolate when you're actually kind of trying to watch what you're eating? Because we're too polite. Politeness is not serving us, girls. When you are polite to somebody else and when you are saying yes to somebody else despite your own goals, you are prioritizing that person or that moment or your fear of their perception of you as opposed to prioritizing yourself and your goals. Now, some people may call that selfish, and I simply call that self-care. Who's with me here? Yes. If your goal includes being on a diet plan, or if your goal includes cutting down on drinking, right? Mike and I just did 10 weeks without alcohol, and it was kind of awesome. It was, I proved yourself once in a while you can do it, right? If your goal in that moment, in that season of your life, is being challenged by somebody outside and well-intentioned. It's typically a friend giving you some crap about, oh, just take a drink. Let's just go get a beer or whatever. Are you being polite by saying yes and completely thwarting your own priorities and your own goals? Yes. So stop it. Politeness is not serving you. And why do we feel rude if we don't accept these things? Why do we feel rude if we say no? I shared this slide in the last webinar, and it's still so damn applicable, because every single time we say yes to somebody, we're saying no probably to ourselves. Saying yes to be polite is saying no to yourself. If we as women are responsible for every single thing that we do and every single decision that we make, then you are literally, like I said, putting the perception of that person about you as a higher priority than you. So knock that shit off, okay? Now, in regards to setting expectations, has anybody ever met up with a client or been out with a client or a colleague, and your kid or a family member or a distant aunt or grandma calls you and you ignore the call because you're in a very important client appointment? Those same people, has anybody been with your kids or with your husband on a date, or spending your time with your grandma or having lunch with your mom, and a client or a colleague calls you and you have to answer it immediately because it's work? Guys, tell me the difference of importance between an appointment personally or an appointment professionally. Fun fact, there is no difference. You're choosing to prioritize work, or you're choosing to prioritize somebody else over your family. And let me preface this all with saying there are going to be extenuating circumstances. There are going to be times that you have to answer that call because it's a time-sensitive issue, or there's some sort of urgency related to a contract or information that they need in a really short amount of time. There's of course going to be those circumstances, but let's be totally honest. If you are prioritizing your work when you're with your family, but you would never prioritize a phone call from your husband when you're with clients because that meeting with your client is so important, then you need to get your priorities in check, girl. Let's be honest. This is my trick right here. On listing appointments, in client meetings, in partner and agent trainings, in 411s, in all the things in business that I do right now, even I put my phone in airplane mode. I'm picking it up right now just so I can show you to prove to you. I put my phone in airplane mode, so I am not even tempted to answer because I don't know that they're calling yet. Nothing could possibly happen in this 1 hour that I really want to spend with you fellow CEOs that I cannot fix in the next 23 minutes. Okay. Now let's apply that same exact principle to our personal life. Don't your kids, doesn't your husband, don't you deserve that kind of attention as well? Fun fact, hint, yes, you do. Yes, you do. You have self-care appointments. You have appointments calendar blocked in your schedule now to read a book or to write or to do something that brings happiness to your heart, personally enriching your life. And you're going to sacrifice that to make sure that you're perceived as on top of things so that you can answer the phone call right away? Come on. Prioritize yourself, prioritize your family, and yes, prioritize your work equally and unapologetically. Having your phone in airplane mode completely eases your mind. It eases your mind so that you know if your watch isn't ringing or your phone isn't buzzing. The worst thing ever is when you're with a client and all of a sudden your phone starts buzzing in your purse right next to you and you both try to pretend like it's not happening. Has anybody ever had that happen? And you're just trying to talk through it like nothing's happening. But how much of a truly subconscious distraction does that create? And your kids have the exact same thing. Your husband is the same thing. They are going to feel like less of a priority if you are not totally present with them. This goes back to being intentional about your time and intentional about your schedule. Put your phone in damn airplane mode. Put it aside for that time that you're with that person or in that meeting or taking care of yourself, and focus and be present in there. I promise you, your quality of life will go up big time when you've got that. All right, and check chat box real quick, see how we're doing. Yes, I'll definitely, Carla, I will definitely share the worksheets for sure. So number 3 concept, guys, we've covered quite a bit of ground already, but step 3, your perfect schedule is going to evolve, and you need to evolve it as you grow, as seasons in your life change, as your kids grow, as your marriage evolves and blossoms, hopefully, or if you go into different seasons of your life where maybe you're rebuilding or focusing on yourself and staying a little internal while maintaining things on the outside, all that's okay, totally okay. But how do we evolve? How do we evolve that schedule and make sure that it remains intentional and focused on our goals? Well, we're going to always be growing. And it's amazing because you hear the word personal development, dev, all these books on personal development. Well, that's great. I do want to develop personally, but how I look at it like we're all trees and we're constantly growing in all directions. And when you cut a branch off, it's going to likely grow in a different direction than it was originally. And that's okay. Those are seasons and changes and life and speed bumps and all those things. But we as women have to always be growing. So number 1, in regards to evolving your schedule and always growing, is to plan and prepare. We have to build into our schedule time to plan and prepare for the rest of it. Number 2, we have to build in accountability, because if we are not accountable to somebody or something or have something in place that we can be accountable to, then you likely will fail. And number 3, we got to incentivize. And everybody's incentives are so different. So one of my favorite quotes of all time, if you ask my son and my husband, there is something called the 6 Ps, and that is prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Such a guy thing. So I didn't use that one. I used old Ben's wonderful little simple quote here. But if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's literally that simple. So what does that look like? Because all of us, us women, we're damn planners. We've got the tournaments on the schedule. We've got that work project dialed in. We've got that family event happening. We've got that birthday party planned. We've got the, Amazon boxes being delivered 3 days before the party. Like, we are on top of our stuff, right? Like, we can plan all these things. But there are those days that you just kind of wake up and are reactive. So how do we avoid those? We avoid them by addressing our nightly routine, because your nightly routine is way more important than your morning routine. And honestly, most gurus are going to tell you the exact opposite of that. Most gurus are going to wake up and attack the day, get up at this time, get up at 3:50 a.m. and read your book and do your gratitudes and do your affirmations. And trust me, I'm one of them. I'm one of those people who says to do that. But it's not without creating a good nightly routine that I can have a good morning routine, because the morning tends to be reactive. And that's okay if you've pre-planned for the things that need to happen. So part of me and Mike's nightly routine is a little bit of no phone time. We have to put our phones away, put them in airplane mode, set them aside for an hour, typically is about all we have, but an hour to 2 hours, and be present with our kids. It is way too easy to be eating dinner, standing up at the island, and everybody else is sitting down eating because you just made it and you finally made your plate. And now I'm, hoovering my food in, and they're all talking anyway. So you could be just on your phone scrolling and stuff. No, that's not intentional living. That's not showing up for your people. We just talked about this in the part 1. Building courage and building confidence is showing up for your people. It's doing the things that we say we're going to do. So putting that no phone time in your calendar. Mike literally has 7 to 8 p.m. a time block in his calendar for no phone time every single night. Now, the other part of a nightly routine is crafting the perfect to-do list. Has anybody here ever heard of a brain dump? Maybe. A brain dump is one of the most genius ideas that I was ever taught by a mentor. And it looks like this. You know, at the end of the day, when you've accomplished a ton of stuff and your to-do list is feeling good, but that anxiety starts already welling up in your belly about all the things that you have to do tomorrow, and you start thinking about all the things that you need to put on your list and priorities, and like what time are you going to do that, and when you can address that in between this meeting that you have, right? So crafting the perfect to-do list starts with a brain dump. It looks like this. You sit down, maybe it's in bed, maybe it's right next to your bed. I always keep like my phone notes open right next to on my nightstand. You literally open up a note, or you pick up a piece of pen or a piece of paper and a pen, and you write down every single thing in your brain, every single thing. Like, I need to grab flea medicine for the dogs, and I can't forget to schedule the kids' teeth cleaning, and I need to call that client back, and I need to write up that addendum before tomorrow, and I need to respond to that inspection, and I need to call this client back, and I need to follow up with that person because I haven't heard back from him in 6 days, and I need to check on that as we're closing, and I need to make sure that my kids are signed up for track, and I need to make sure that I have there's like so many things rolling through our head every night, and we as women we just think we're going to remember all of it. We think we're just going to wake up and know exactly what I was thinking last night and exactly what order I need to do things in because I already thought about it. Well, if you're like me, that's the farthest from the truth that could possibly be. If I do not write something down and is not in a list, I will absolutely forget. So writing down every single thing that's in your brain is what a brain dump is. And it's going to be messy and it's going to be disorganized all over the sheet, and that's fine. But getting it out of your brain is what creates such peace. And for me, a feeling of success in my head, because I feel like it's somewhere that I'm not going to forget it, and I can now rest in peace tonight. Once you've done your brain dump, I always check my schedule, right? I'm always looking at the schedule the night before for the next day. And I create and craft my to-do list based on my brain dump. So I'll take all of those items from the brain dump and then create a new note, or reorganize the note that I've created and relist out all of those things that I need to do. And if you remember that urgent and important quadrant that we talked about in part 1, you can literally put every item you wrote on your brain dump through that filter, therefore identifying when and where those things need to be taken care of and where to put them into your schedule, especially if they're important and they need to be done, but it can be done in a couple of days, right? So get those things all into your schedule. Do not wait. Create that to-do list, get those things into your schedule, identify and own the schedule that you have. I pack my bags, my gym bag, my food for the next day, all the night before. Again, I am working to create a morning that is flawless, is easy. And then, like I said, prioritizing the to-dos for the next day. These are such simple concepts, but the point of doing it every night is what's going to bring you peace, and it's going to bring you some organization into your life. It's way too easy to be like, I am fucking exhausted and I don't even want to brush my teeth or wash my face right now. I want to hit the pillow. But again, if you identify as somebody who is very intentional about their days and does not spend their day reacting to their schedule, then you will take the 5 minutes to do that brain dump and craft that to-do list and double check your schedule to own your schedule so that you can go into the next morning flawlessly. Now, go back. There we go. When it comes to accountability, when it comes to building in people and keeping those people around you who matter and who care about your goals and who want to see you succeed, this is so important, such an important concept. My coach and mentor, Eric Hatch, tells this story a lot, and it's one of my absolute favorites, is the story of the donkeys and the racehorses, right? Now, you can put a donkey into a barn full of racehorses, and being in that environment, that donkey is going to see the habits of these racehorses and see how, gracefully they walk around in their pen, and see them go out and see them practice running. And he's going to see the way that they eat well, and they drink plenty of water, and they get lots of sleep. And he's going to start adopting those habits, and he's going to start doing the things because he's in the environment of all these racehorses. And when race day comes, that donkey is going to be significantly faster, and he's going to almost keep up with those racehorses because he's been in that environment. Whereas you put a racehorse in a barn full of donkeys, and even if it's the fastest, most incredible, strong, healthy racehorse there, it's still in a barn with donkeys. And it's going to see kind of the sloppiness and the relative laziness and the loudness, and that they don't really run. They kind of do this weird trot thing. And it kind of reminds me of Donkey on Shrek, but like the weird trot thing the donkeys do. And when race day comes, that racehorse is going to be significantly slower and probably quite lazy because it has surrounded itself with donkeys. So who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with people that talk about other people all the time? Are you surrounding yourself with people who are talking about accomplishing big goals and big dreams and living a lifestyle that is intentional? Or are you surrounding yourself and spending your precious time with people who don't really care and want to know more about the sports scores and what the latest news cycle says? And they don't really talk about the personal growth, and they don't really take ownership over things in their life. Because who you surround yourself with matters. One of my favorite quotes, and something I talk about all the time, is that accountability is love. The people in your life, and conversely, you being someone in other people's lives, if you keep them accountable to the things that are of integrity and of truth and of right, and keep them accountable to the things that they said they wanted to do, the goals that they have, the lifestyle that they want to live, you keeping them accountable and people in your life keeping you accountable, that is love. People who let you get away with not following your diet for longer than 6 days, or not going on that walk, or skipping things like going to the gym, or reading a book, or taking care of yourself, or spending time with your kids, people that support you skipping the things that matter to you, that's not love. So when you're looking in your life, the people that are around you that are keeping you accountable to the things you said you wanted to do, and the person that you want to be, and the person you're always growing towards, the people that are keeping you accountable to that love you the most, love you more than the person who's letting you slide. Because likely that person who's letting you slide, it's more about them than it is about you. And again, politeness doesn't serve you, y'all. Number 3, I had to use this one. Guys. Incentives. What makes you excited? This is my Phoebes. I think she's 2 or 3 in this picture. She is the most excited, passionate person on the planet. I am so lucky to be her mom. It is so much fun and so fucking exhausting at the same time. But what makes you excited? For me, it's travel. I love seeing new places. I love experiences. I love experiencing things with my kids through their eyes. I love going places and seeing awesome places with Mike. I love travel. So I know that when I'm setting my goals, and I'm setting my financial and my social and my personal enrichment and my growth and my fitness goals, they are because I have goals to travel. And I'm going to incentivize myself when I hit my goals by doing something that I love. So what makes you excited? What not just what gets you up in the morning, but what is like, that is feels like a win. That feels like an incentive for me, right? So here's just some of the traveling that we did just last year. Now, a lot of people probably look at me in Mike's life and go, holy smokes, those people are never home. Those people are traveling all the time. And that's not true, but I can understand how it is, because instead of, you know, a lot of toys or a lot of other things, we love travel. So that's how we incentivize our hard work. We set our goals, we hit our goals, we celebrate our goals. And that's such a huge part of life. We've gotten to the point now where we actually book, well, I think I talked about it in part 1, but we actually book a trip every 90 days. So one will be just Mike and I, and one will be with the kids as a full family event. And it's a way for us to keep our eyes on the prize and be intentional every single day at work and with our family and with our team and with our clients, because we know that the incentive is coming. So it's a way for us to really dig in and work really hard, because we know that we're going to go play. It's a huge incentive for us. And it's find your incentive. There are times that I said, okay, if I sign this many clients, or if I close this many houses, or if I, you know, get my listing partner up to this kind of competency this month, I'm going to go buy myself a new pair of shoes. I make almost everything that I buy an incentive, because I want to feel productive. That's part of me feeling successful. So find yours. What's your incentive? What makes you feel so excited to get up and go accomplish things so that you can go do that? Figure that out. Now, let's recap, ladies, as we're winding down here in our time. Last week, no, it was not last week, last webinar, look at me. We talked a lot about affirmations and identifying as something, right? Identifying as something else, because we don't have discipline problems. But I want to recap what a CEO's perfect daily schedule looks like. Because yes, it's calendar blocks. Yes, it's color coding, but really it comes down to intentionality. So number 1, we're going to identify our goals. Number 2, we're going to keep the integrity of our goals a priority in our everyday life. And we're going to build that into our schedule, build in the time blocks. Not every day is going to look the same. Not every week is going to look the same, but being intentional about making sure that we're spending our time where we want to be and where we want to go is so key. Number 3, your perfect schedule is evolving. It's always evolving, because you are always growing. So this was fun. I want you to sit up in your chair. I want you to throw your shoulders back. We're going to do a little bit of affirmations, because that is my jam before we leave. And you're going to repeat after me, outside voice or inside voice or in your head. That's okay. It doesn't matter. We're going to start. We're going to say, I am organized. I am intentional. I am confident. I am courageous. I am accountable to my goals. And I am the CEO of my schedule. That's what I got. So guys, talk to me. Oh yeah, I got some email addresses. Okay, I'll try to get those in there. Yes, worksheets, perfect. I'm going to put my email address in the chat here. Shoot me an email if, let's see, everyone, let's try that again. Perfect. Let's see. Jennifer, I'd love to have some sample affirmations that you have found power in using. Yes, absolutely. We are actually going to dive deep on that on the next webinar, which is going to be the end of April, date TBD, but I will get that out when we send out the replay. I'll have that date finalized for that link. let's see, what one to share, one of my favorite ones to share, Jen, that was my, like, one of my most powerful affirmations was that I am humble enough to know that what I don't know. So, or humble enough to, do something wrong enough times to get it right, that kind of thing. Very, very thing. So love that, Jennifer. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you guys were here, like, and sharing this all with me. This is so wonderful. So enjoy your day. Go absolutely tackle your schedule. Go set your goals. I will share that goal sheet. And peace out, my friends.